It was one of those humid nights in late September when the air feels too thick for sleep. I'd woken up around 2:30 a.m., sticky with sweat, the kind that clings to your ribs and makes you feel like you're drowning under your own skin. I rolled over and reached for my phone, more out of habit than anything else. The bedroom was silent except for the steady whir of the ceiling fan. Anna lay beside me, deep in sleep, or pretending to be, maybe, though that's a thought I only entertain in hindsight. Her back was to me, shoulders curled inward like a comma. I was scrolling aimlessly. News. Emails. Nothing. Then I tapped open Google Pay. I don't know why. Curiosity, boredom, muscle memory. But that's when I saw it. Shell gas station, $42.79, 2:08 a.m. I blinked, confused, trying to make sense of it. The timestamp punched a hollow feeling straight into my gut. 2:08, just 20 minutes ago. While I was asleep. While she was in bed beside me. I stared at the screen, the glow washing my face pale in the dark. I tapped for more details. It wasn't a scheduled payment. It wasn't from any saved card. This was her phone, or fingerprint. Tap to pay via her device. A live transaction. I turned my head and looked at her. Still curled, still breathing slowly. I listened, just to be sure. That rhythmic exhale, the kind people fake if they think you're watching. My pulse started to thump behind my eyes. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could and walked barefoot to the garage. The car was parked in its usual spot. I opened the door and stepped in, clicked the ignition just far enough to light up the dashboard. The tank was full. I just stood there, staring at the fuel gauge. Full. We hadn't filled up in a week. She'd said she wasn't going anywhere this weekend. That she was tired. That she was turning in early with a headache. She'd said all of that with her usual flat effect, a hand brushing my arm, like the contact was a favor. I sat in the driver's seat for a minute longer, letting the quiet swallow me. The car still smelled faintly like her shampoo, that citrus lavender mix I used to find comforting. Now it felt artificial, like a cover-up. Back inside, I opened the bedroom door again. She was still facing the wall, motionless. I stood there in the doorway and listened again. This time, the breathing sounded too even. Practiced. I went to the kitchen instead. Poured a glass of water I didn't drink. Sat at the island and stared at the payment notification again. My thumb hovered over the report and issue option, like that would fix it. Like it would scrub away the suspicion already hardening in my chest. At 7:42 a.m., when she finally stirred, I was already dressed, seated at the dining table, pretending to read something on my laptop. She patted and wearing the same tank top from last night, her hair up in that loose bunch she only wore when she didn't expect to see anyone. Morning, she said, voice scratchy. Her acting was good. Sleep okay? I asked, casual. She shrugged and poured herself some coffee. Not really. Woke up around 1, couldn't fall back asleep for a while. I said. I waited a beat. Weird glitch on Google Pay last night. Says you paid at a Shell station around 2. Know anything about that? She didn't even blink. Probably an error. The app's been acting weird for weeks. I nodded. That's strange, though. It says it used your phone. She finally turned to look at me then, eyebrows raised, but not too much. Her poker face was better than mine. Yeah, I don't know. I was in bed all night. You saw me. I wanted to ask her what station she didn't go to, what car she didn't fill. But instead, I just said, right? I saw you. Later that day, when she was in the shower, I checked the car again. There were crumpled receipts under the passenger seat. Fast food wrappers. A Red Bull can. But what stood out was a single receipt folded neatly and wedged into the side door panel. It was from the Shell station. Timestamp, 2:10 a.m. Itemized, premium fuel. Pack of gum. 1 bouquet, assorted wildflowers. Wildflowers. Anna hated wildflowers. And now I couldn't stop picturing her driving down some dim back road, windows down, buying gas and a half-hearted bouquet for someone else. Someone waiting. The kind of someone you don't bring home. The rest of the day, I went through the motions. I sat through meetings at work, answered emails, gave nods to things I didn't hear. But inside, everything felt off balance. Like the floor had tilted 3 degrees and nobody else had noticed yet. At 6:12 p.m., she texted me from the bedroom. Dinner. As if everything was still normal. As if nothing happened. That night, she made pasta. Set the table like she used to when we were happy. Even played one of our old jazz playlists in the background. She looked at me over a forkful of fettuccine and said, "You okay? You've been quiet." I almost said it right there. Almost laid it all out. The gas station. The gum. The bouquet. The lie. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled and said, "Just tired." Because I wasn't ready to accuse her yet. I was going to watch her. Let her keep lying. Let her believe she was still in control. Because sometimes the best way to catch someone isn't to confront them. It's to let them dig the hole a little deeper. And Anna was already waist deep. The next morning, I watched her more than I spoke. She moved through the kitchen like she always did, efficient, polished, never careless. But now, every little detail felt suspicious. The way she wiped down the counter twice. The way she glanced at the window before speaking. The slight pause when I asked how she slept. I noticed all of it. Like my mind had recalibrated for deception. At 10:43 a.m., while she was upstairs folding laundry, I pulled the receipt out of my jacket pocket again. I must have read it 20 times already. Still, I studied it like it held a hidden message I'd missed. There was something about the timestamp that gnawed at me. 2:10 a.m. That was 2 minutes after the Google Pay transaction. She must have been there physically there, holding her phone, pressing it against the reader, entering her PIN, buying gas, gum, flowers. I tapped open Google Maps on my phone and searched for Shell stations nearby. Only 2 within a 10-mile radius. One of them, on Route 7, was open 24 hours. I called them. Shell, Route 7. Hi, yeah? Do you have cameras at the pumps? I think I may have left something in my car, and I'm trying to check when I was there. Yeah, we got cams. You know what time? Just after 2 a.m. this morning. Yeah. You'd need to talk to the manager. He's not until tomorrow. Right. Okay. Thanks. I hung up and stared at the counter. It wasn't much, but it was something. I'd go tomorrow. Talk to the manager. Maybe ask to see the footage. Say it was a safety concern. Say anything. Upstairs, the laundry machine buzzed and she sang softly to herself, off-key but calm, like someone who had nothing to hide. That evening, she suggested a walk. I said yes. We passed the same trees we always did. Same cracked sidewalks. Same neighbors with the same sleepy nods. And yet the entire time, I couldn't stop wondering if these streets were just a decoy, something to keep me grounded while she slipped somewhere else entirely. You're still distant, she said, stopping to touch a wilted hydrangea. Her voice was light but edged. I shrugged. Just thinking. About what? I don't know. Life. Life? She said, smiling, but not warmly. You sound like a man having a crisis. That almost made me laugh. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I said, maybe I am. She looked at me for a second too long, like she was calculating something. Then she reached for my hand, slid her fingers between mine. It felt mechanical. Not comforting. Like someone trying to reset a password they forgot. That night, after she fell asleep, I stayed up scrolling through our shared bank accounts. Most of it looked normal. Grocery store. Netflix. Pharmacy. But then I saw something that caught me cold. Venmo transfer, $200, sent to J 1:14 a.m. 1 hour before the gas station. There was no last name. Just the letter. I clicked for the transaction note. It read, "Thanks for earlier. You always know what I need." I stared at it, my heart slow and hot in my chest. She told me she was going to sleep early. She'd walked upstairs, kissed my forehead, and said she was exhausted. And then, 40 minutes later, she was sending someone money, thanking them. You always know what I need. I closed the laptop and stared at the wall for a long time. The room was too quiet, too clean. Everything in our house had always been just so neat, pristine, organized. But now it felt like that perfection was its own kind of violence. Like something had been killed and scrubbed away so efficiently, all I could smell was bleach. The next day, I called out of work, told them I had a stomach thing. At 10:01 a.m., I drove to the Shell station. The guy behind the counter was maybe 25. Hungover, judging by the sunglasses indoors and the orange Gatorade clutched in one hand. "Hey," I said. "I was here a couple nights ago, around 2 a.m. I think I left something in the car and just wanted to check the footage." He blinked at me. "You're asking to see surveillance?" "Yeah, I know it's weird. I think someone might have messed with my car. I filed a police report already." That was a lie, but it worked. "Damn. Okay, hang on." He disappeared into a back room. A few minutes later, he waved me over to a small monitor near the register. The image was grainy, black and white. He scrubbed through the footage. "There," I said, pointing. "That's the time." We watched in silence. At 2:06 a.m., a silver Camry pulled in. Same make, same year, same dent above the left rear tire. She stepped out of the driver's seat. Alone, wearing the long gray hoodie she usually slept in. Hair tied up. No makeup. She looked like she'd rolled out of bed and gone straight to the gas station. But it was what happened next that made my stomach lurch. After she filled the tank, she walked around to the passenger side and pulled out a duffel bag. Set it in the trunk. Smoothed her hair in the side mirror. Then opened the passenger door, not to grab something, to let someone in. The figure that stepped out was taller than her. Male. Hoodie pulled low. Lean frame. No words exchanged. Just a shared look. And then they both got back in the car and drove off. The footage ended there. I stared at the screen like it could explain something it hadn't already made worse. The cashier let out a low whistle. "That's kinda wild, man." "Yeah," I said softly. "Yeah, it is." He looked at me sideways. "You okay?" I nodded, but I wasn't. I walked out into the daylight, but everything felt darker. So she'd lied. Not once. Not in passing. This was deliberate. Coordinated. She left the house at 1:50 a.m. Picked him up. Bought flowers. Drove off somewhere. Full tank. Full lies. Came back before dawn. Slipped into bed like nothing happened. I stood by my car, doors still open, one hand on the roof. The birds were singing. Somewhere, a lawnmower buzzed to life. And I felt nothing. Not yet. Just the vacuum left by disbelief. Like the air had gone flat. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the worst of it. It wasn't just that she left. It was that she came back. That afternoon, I drove back home with the windows down, trying to keep my hands from shaking. The road blurred. The same streets I'd driven for years now felt alien. Like I'd only ever skimmed their surface until now. I pulled into the driveway and just sat there, engine ticking, a single thought forming like fog on glass. Who the hell is Jay? It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something colder. A low, thrumming hunger to understand what I'd let walk freely through my life. Back inside, Anna was in the kitchen, humming to herself while slicing peaches. The house smelled like cinnamon. Her favorite trick. Warmth by way of distraction. She smiled when she saw me. "You're home early." I nodded. "Yeah, got sent home. Office bug going around. Hope you're not catching it." I watched her slide peach slices into a bowl like nothing had changed. Her hands moved with their usual grace, calm and deliberate. But that face, the one I used to trust when it said "I love you," now looked like a mask. A perfectly molded replica of the woman I thought I knew. "How'd you sleep last night?" I asked. She didn't miss a beat. Fine. You. I had weird dreams. Woke up around 2. That landed. A flicker across her eyes. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. But it was there. That half-second recalibration before she said, "Strange." I must have slept right through. I sat at the kitchen island and watched her finish the fruit. She placed a bowl in front of me. There was no ring on her finger. She hadn't worn it in weeks, said the band was pinching her skin. But now I wondered who else was touching that hand. Later that night, while she was brushing her teeth, I picked up her phone from the nightstand. She rarely locked it. I'd always taken that as a sign of trust. But now I knew better. No Venmo app on her screen. I searched deeper. Found it tucked inside a folder labeled Utilities. Like her secrets belonged alongside the calculator and flashlight. I opened the app. Locked. Password protected. I tried her usual codes. Nothing. Face ID required her face. I stared at the screen until the light dimmed and the phone went black. The next morning, I told her I had an early meeting. Left the house before sunrise. Drove aimlessly at first, letting the engine hum against my silence. Then I pulled into the library. Quiet, empty, safe. I sat in the far corner and opened my laptop. I didn't know what I was looking for. I only knew that Jay was real, that he'd sat in my car, that he'd taken something with him. Maybe her. Maybe just the version of her I thought I loved. I opened Facebook. Nothing obvious. Instagram. Private. Then I tried something else. I searched through our shared Google Photos folder. She'd stopped uploading months ago, claiming she was going minimalist. But I checked the metadata on old pictures anyway. Some of them had backup locations embedded. GPS data. I pulled one from late August, a weekend she said she'd spent at her friend Kira's place. The location? A cabin 2 counties over, in a town we'd never once visited together. I copied the address into maps. There it was. Small. Secluded. Right near a lake. I zoomed in on satellite view. There, in the gravel drive, was a car. Silver. Camry. My Camry. The image was dated, months old, but it still made my throat close. She'd gone somewhere with him. Somewhere she'd marked as her own. I drove out there that weekend. Told her I had to visit an old friend. Some work thing. She didn't ask many questions. In fact, she almost seemed relieved. 3 hours later, I was there. The lake was still. Birds loud. No one around for miles. The cabin sat just off the road, small and weathered but well kept. There were no cars parked outside. But the place didn't feel abandoned. The grass had been trimmed. The porch swept. And on the doormat was something I wasn't prepared for. A key. No note. No tag. Just a single key with a bright yellow ribbon tied around it. She used to wear a ribbon just like that in her hair. Said her mother gave it to her. I pocketed it and stepped inside. The cabin smelled like cedar and something sweeter underneath. Perfume. Faint but familiar. The kind she wore when she didn't want me to notice she was trying. There were 2 mugs on the counter, both recently used. A folded blanket on the couch. A book half finished on the table, The Art of Disappearing. I moved through the space carefully, like an intruder in my own delusion. In the bedroom, the bed was unmade. The sheets tangled, a second pillow dented from use. I opened the closet. Inside, a duffel bag. Hers. And beside it, his. A gym bag with the initials JM embroidered in fading white thread. JM. I backed out of the closet like it had burned me. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I drove home in silence, the yellow ribbon on the seat beside me like some sick trophy. When I got back, Anna was curled on the couch, wine glass in hand, legs tucked under her. She looked up at me and smiled. "How was it?" she asked. I nodded. "Good. Caught up. Cleared my head. I'm glad." That night, while she slept, I lay in the dark with the key in one hand and her phone in the other. Still locked. Still smiling at me with that blank, black screen. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I waited until she went for her run. She'd started taking them every Sunday. Said they helped her burn off the week. She always left her laptop open. I waited exactly 8 minutes, then opened it. The password was the same as it had always been. Her childhood dog's name. The desktop was clean. Too clean. I searched her documents. Found nothing useful. But when I opened her browser, her tabs were still cached. She'd closed them, but they were there in history. One was a Gmail tab, open to an email chain labeled cabin prep/October dates. Another was a spreadsheet, split expenses JM/A. And then the one that made me stop breathing. A drafted email, never sent. Subject, can't lie to him much longer. The body read, Jay, I think he's getting close. He asked about the gas. Saw the payment. I told him it was a glitch. I'll keep stalling. But if he finds the cabin, you know what we talked about? Hey, no signature. No love. Just a. My wife had become a signature. And I didn't know if the warning was for me or for him. For the rest of that day, I moved through the house like a ghost. Every sound she made felt magnified, the clink of a glass, the creak of a floorboard, the little hums under her breath as she folded laundry. She was performing ease, but I saw the tension coil just beneath it now. The flick of her eyes when I walked into the room. The way she kept her phone face down, no matter where she left it. She was trying to stay ahead of me, but she didn't know I was already past her. That night, I copied the email. I didn't confront her. I forwarded it to myself from her laptop, deleted the sent item, and cleared her browser history down to the minute. I did it methodically. No anger, just silence. I couldn't afford anger yet. Anger warns people. The next morning, I called in sick again. Said it was food poisoning this time. My boss didn't ask questions. I'd earned that much leeway. Instead of resting, I drove downtown. Found a friend, Cal, an IT guy I used to drink with before Anna and I became married people. Cal owed me a favor. Years ago, I helped him cover up a DUI with our company HR. Never said a word. Today, I collected. I need to know who JM is, I told him. Name, phone, address. I've got partials. Email handle. Maybe a license plate if I can find a cam. Cal looked at me, wary. This about your wife? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He sighed. Give me a few days. I don't have days. He hesitated, then nodded. I'll see what I can dig up by tomorrow. I handed him a slip of paper. The initials. The email. The Venmo username I'd memorized. The duffel bag detail. Anything that could be cross-referenced. Then I left before he could ask me more. Back home, Anna was on the phone, laughing. A full, unguarded laugh. She didn't know I was standing behind the door. No, he's still clueless, she was saying. I think I sold it. Yeah, the glitch story. He didn't even question it. A pause. Then softer. You always calm me down. I swear, if we get through this, Maui, right? Just you and me. I stepped away, careful not to let the floor creak. I didn't want her to know what I'd heard. Not yet. That night, I sat beside her on the couch as we watched some show we pretended to love for years. The kind where people fall in and out of bed and call it destiny. She curled against me. My arm went around her, automatically. And in my head, I pictured her in that cabin. With him. I pictured her hands pulling his hoodie off. Her mouth whispering things she'd once said to me. And yet she was here, under my arm, pretending this couch was her truth. She'd learned how to play both sides of the mirror. That was her real gift. She knew how to vanish without leaving. The next morning, Cal texted me one word. Found. I met him in the alley behind his building. He handed me a manila envelope. No fanfare. Inside, printouts. A driver's license. Phone records. Security cam stills from another gas station. Different date. Same car. Same time of night. The man, Jacob Michelson. 34, former bartender. DUI record. Gym trainer license expired last year. No current employer. Most recently known address. The cabin. No employment, but plenty of cash flow. Large Venmo payments every 2 weeks from AL. Anna's initials. She'd been funding him. Not just loving him. Funding him. Investing in their lie. Cole gave me a look I'd never seen before. Not pity. Something colder. You gonna go to the cops? I shook my head. Then what? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know yet. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. She said she was going to a late yoga class. The one she started recently. Supposedly just for stress. I watched her leave in leggings and a hoodie. Watched the taillights of the Camry disappear down our street. Then I got in my car and followed. She didn't go to yoga. She drove 20 minutes out. Past the retail park. Onto a dirt road. I killed my lights and coasted behind her, far enough to vanish in the mirrors. She pulled up to a small house I didn't recognize. Not the cabin. Something else. More suburban. Empty drive. She got out. Knocked on the door. And he opened it. Jacob. They didn't kiss. Not right away. But the way she looked at him, tilting her head, brushing her hair behind her ear, that look wasn't platonic. It was the same look she gave me the first time we met. The look that said you don't know it yet, but I've already chosen you. I parked down the street and sat there in silence. I didn't get out. I didn't rush the door. I didn't yell. I watched. They stayed inside for 2 hours. When she finally came out, her hoodie was zipped higher, her hair pulled tighter, but her body language was lighter. Her steps had that bounce again. She drove off. I stayed. 5 minutes later, he came out with a garbage bag, tossed it into the bins like a ritual. And right before he turned back to the house, he looked straight at me. He knew. He couldn't see me. My car was dark, tucked behind another on the curb, but he knew. It was the pause in his step, the tension in his jaw, that predator's awareness. We locked eyes through 100 feet of night. And I swear, he smiled. That was when I decided. This wasn't about confronting Anna anymore. It wasn't about answers. It was about choosing the ending. Because she already had her version. The glitch. The flowers. The laugh. The signature she signed her betrayals with. But mine? Mine would be permanent. And it would leave a scar. It started with the flowers. I had them delivered to the cabin first. Wildflowers, arranged to look exactly like the ones she bought that night at Shell. I made sure the delivery service left them in a plain brown box, addressed only to A. No note. No return address. Just the same bouquet. 2 days later, I had them sent to the rental house she visited Jacob in. Same arrangement. Same timing. Right before dusk. By the 3rd time, she noticed. She came home looking paler than usual, lips tight. She stood in the kitchen with her hands braced on the counter like it was holding her up. I watched her from the hallway, just out of view. She didn't say a word, just stared at her phone, then at the window, then at me, as if I had become something she had to measure carefully before handling. I wanted her afraid, not of what I'd do, but of what I already knew. She still hadn't mentioned the gas station, or the cabin, or Jacob. But now, when she touched me, it felt like someone testing the heat of water they already knew would burn. That weekend, I went back to the cabin. I didn't use the key this time. I broke in. The place was still. Empty. But the air was warmer now, stale with the scent of 2 people who hadn't learned how to hide properly. Their life together was sloppy, like they believed no one else existed. I found receipts. A half-finished bottle of her favorite wine. A yoga mat rolled into the corner, matching the one she left in the car. They were so sure I wouldn't find this place. So sure I wouldn't look. I left a note in the fridge, written in Sharpie on the back of a utility bill. Stop smiling. I see everything now. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. On the drive back, I rehearsed the moment, the confrontation, the wreckage. But each version felt empty, predictable. She'd cry. He'd puff his chest. I'd be reduced to the man they already thought they'd beaten. That wouldn't do. Instead, I waited for them to fall deeper into the fantasy, to leave footprints they couldn't erase. The next morning, I called Cal again. I need something else, I said. Phone records. Hers. Can you get them? A pause. Then, what's this about, man? Really? Justice, I said. Not for me. He didn't ask again. 3 days later, he sent the data. Incoming and outgoing logs. Coordinates. Messages, mostly deleted, but metadata doesn't lie. She hadn't just been visiting Jacob. She'd been tracking me, checking my calendar, texting him updates. He's home today. He's gone till 5. Door's safe. We'll be at dentist, 3 to 4 p.m. No risk. She was building a double life and using my schedule to fund it. But the worst one? Dated 2 weeks ago. Soon. I'll bring it up. I'll say I want to separate. He won't fight me. He's too tired. I sat there staring at it. She wasn't planning to be honest. She was planning to frame it as honesty. Wear guilt like makeup. Make the story digestible. Noble. Like she had the strength to leave. Like she wasn't the one burying the knife. And Jacob? He was just waiting, letting her handle the mess. The coward's way. He didn't want to get his hands dirty. So I forced his hand. I bought a prepaid phone. Sent him a text. You shouldn't have smiled at me. I know where you sleep. Then turned it off. Crushed the SIM. Tossed it off a bridge. The next morning, Anna didn't go for her run. Instead, she paced the living room like a storm cloud tethered to a floorboard. She looked up when I entered, I searching. Did you hear anything last night? She asked. No. Why? I thought I heard something outside. Maybe a branch hitting the window. I nodded. She waited a beat longer. Then said, I think I'm just tired. I kissed her on the cheek before leaving for work. She flinched. The following night, she took a long shower. Stayed in there almost an hour. When she came out, she looked smaller. Worn. Can I ask you something? She said. I turned off the TV. She paused, eyes scanning my face. Do you ever feel like we're drifting? I stared at her. Then said, no. But I feel like someone's steering us off course. She looked away. Didn't ask anything else. 2 days later, Jacob tried to file a restraining order. He used a fabricated police report claiming harassment. A call from an unknown number, a man threatening his life. But the report never made it past the front desk, because the name he filed under, Jacob M. Lowry, was an alias. He had a sealed arrest under that name from a county across state lines. False identity use. Misdemeanor, but enough to nullify his credibility. I leaked the name to a private forum. Attached the public mugshot. Let the wolves take it from there. Anna called him that night. I listened from the hallway. He was panicking. Someone's messing with me. I swear to God, Anna, this is bad. She whispered something back. Soft. Like she was scared of the walls hearing her. He said, we need to move the date up. She said, I'm not ready. He's still. And then she trailed off. That night, I lay in bed beside her while she stared at the ceiling. She thought she had 2 lives. But really, she had none. Both were closing in on her. The glitch wasn't the gas station. The glitch was me. I wasn't supposed to ask questions. I wasn't supposed to dig. I was supposed to fade. But I didn't. And now, the final piece was almost in place. I'd gotten the name of her divorce attorney. She hadn't filed yet, but she'd made the appointment. I called him anonymously, posed as another client, asked if he handled asset freezes in cases of infidelity. He gave me the answer I needed. Yes, if you can provide proof. Then I asked, what if it's 2 people colluding? He paused. Still admissible, especially if financial abuse is suspected. I thanked him. Then I got to work. Printed everything. Bank transfers. The spreadsheet from her laptop. Cabin receipts. Metadata from her shared calendar. linking her absences to his Venmo spikes. I placed them all into a binder. Black, unmarked, heavy. Left it on the kitchen counter. She found it after her shower. I heard the pages turning, one by one. When she came into the room, her face was blank. Too blank. "You've been watching me?" she asked. "I've been seeing you," I corrected. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "This isn't what you think." "No," I said. "It's worse." She took a step forward. "Let me explain." I shook my head. "You already did." Then I turned and walked into the guest room, shut the door, and waited for her to realize it. She didn't need to leave me anymore. I was already gone. For the next 48 hours, the house was a glacier. Every word between us cracked like ice. We moved around each other like strangers in a museum. Careful, cold, pretending not to notice how close the walls were drawing in. She didn't ask where the binder had come from. She didn't ask how much I knew. She didn't even try to lie. That part was over. Now came the real performance, damage control. Anna cooked dinner both nights. She never cooked 2 days in a row. The first night, she made pasta. The second, soup. Both meals were laced with that eerie domesticity, the kind that feels like someone trying to make you forget the taste of poison. She stopped locking her phone, too. I didn't take the bait. She wanted me to see her pretending to be clean, but the stain was already baked into her. On the third morning, I found her in the dining room with a stack of papers. Her hands trembled just slightly as she slid one toward me. It was a proposal, handwritten, old-fashioned, trying too hard to look sincere. A clean separation. She'd drawn up a mock division of assets. Equal split. Calm language. No mention of Jacob. No admission of guilt. Just enough plausible deniability to give herself a clean slate. "I just want peace," she said quietly. "For both of us." I read it in silence. Every word like a new insult. Not because of what it said, but because she still thought she was negotiating. "I'm not signing anything," I said. Her eyes flicked up. "Why not?" "Because I'm not interested in peace." She flinched. "I'm interested in truth." That night, I sent Jacob the photos. The bank statements. A screenshot of the binder's contents. I made sure to include one detail he couldn't ignore, Anna's list of withdrawal dates from our joint savings account. Every time she gave him cash, it came from our money. I signed the message only with, "You were never the secret. You were the pawn." He didn't reply, but the next day, he was gone. Anna came home late. I was already at the kitchen table, laptop open, pretending to work. She didn't sit down, just stood in the doorway, clutching her purse too tightly. "Did you talk to him?" she asked. "No." "Did you send him something?" I looked up. "What do you think?" She didn't answer, just dropped the purse and sat down across from me. I went to the cabin. "He's not there. Took everything. Didn't even leave a note." I said nothing. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her phone, slid it across the table. I deleted his number. "I know." I told him it was over. "I know that too." She looked at me then, really looked. For the first time in weeks, her face unguarded. "Raw, what do you want from me?" she asked. I closed the laptop. "I want you to admit it." She blinked. "Admit what?" "That you never planned to leave me because you were brave. You planned to leave because you thought I wouldn't fight back." Silence. "You thought I'd just disappear. Let you rewrite the story." She stared down at the table, mouth pressed tight. "I thought you'd be sad," she said finally. "Angry, maybe. But not this." "This?" I echoed. She looked up again. "You've become cruel." I almost laughed. Cruel is watching someone sleep beside you while planning to erase them. Her eyes filled but didn't spill. "I didn't mean to fall in love with him." "You didn't," I said. "You fell in with escape." She looked away. After a long silence, she whispered, "What now?" I stood and walked over to the counter, pulled out a single manila envelope from the drawer. The last one. Inside, a legal notice, prepped by my new lawyer. A woman who specialized in contested divorces involving asset concealment. Anna's name sat at the top, beneath the accusation. Deliberate financial deception within marital trust. I placed it in front of her. This is what now, I said. You don't get to disappear. You get to be seen. She opened the envelope with slow fingers. Read the first paragraph. Her hands began to shake again. You're going to drag me through court? No, I said. You're going to drag yourself. I'll fight it. You won't. She stared at me. I have evidence, I continued, of every lie, every cent. And Jacob? He's not going to protect you. He's already run. That's what cowards do. I leaned closer. You didn't just betray me. You laundered trust. You turned our life into currency. Her breath was short now, chest rising fast. You wanted a clean break, I said. This is it. But it'll be my version. She looked at me then, not with hatred, but with something worse. Recognition. She saw, finally, what I had become. Not her victim. Not her partner. Not the man she'd tried to phase out like old wallpaper. But the glitch she couldn't delete. That weekend, she moved into a hotel. Told friends we were separating amicably. Wore sunglasses everywhere. Deleted her social media accounts. I didn't reply to the text she sent. Didn't acknowledge the voicemail where she said she was ready to be honest. The last time I saw her was through the rearview mirror. I passed her on Route 7. She didn't see me. She was alone in the Camry, windows rolled up, expression vacant. Driving nowhere. Maybe looking for a version of herself she could still live with. I didn't wave. Didn't honk. Just kept driving. The following month, the judge signed the preliminary motion. The court recognized the financial breach. Our joint assets were frozen pending settlement. Her attorney asked for a meeting. I declined. Instead, I had my lawyer send a single document back. No settlement. Full disclosure. Public record. Because some lies don't deserve quiet exits. They deserve daylight. A few weeks later, a payment pinged on my new Google Pay account. Refund. Shell gas station. $42.79. I stared at it for a long time. Almost smiled. It wasn't justice. Not really. But it was something. The transaction that started it all. Reversed. Like the story had finally paid itself back. In full. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.